Hey, Larry Elder here. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt and KHNC.
Good morning, guys. How you doing? Bucky Dillon here, host of the Bucky Dillon Show, and I am so happy to be with you again this morning. The call-in number 970-587-5171. Let me know what y'all are up to today. And I have a question of the day. Should I stop talking about politics? My wife says she's been listening to my show, not regularly, but she's been listening to my show enough to notice that I tend to utilize the same examples, the same metaphors, and hit the same points over and over and over. She thinks I'm getting redundant. So call in the number 970-587-5171. Would you like to hear me talk about something new, something aside from politics? Now, there are those who would love to hear me talk about something new, something other than politics, including myself. So we've been thinking about talking about relationship stuff. We've been thinking about talking about all kinds of other things, but the question remains: would you like to hear me talk about relationship stuff? Or would you like to hear me talk about politics and its ramifications? So before we get too far ahead, what did you guys think of us not doing a Friday night event? Did you enjoy not seeing us? It's totally possible that you enjoyed not seeing us at all. I'm joined today by my esteemed co-patriot, Mr. LaRusso. How you doing, sir?
I am doing tired. Very tired.
Oh, come on, get over it. I've been doing this for months now, and I still haven't managed to tack down a consistent bedtime. So every day it's like starting this whole every weekend I end up staying up till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, sleeping until 9, and every Monday morning it's like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, a cold shower, and leftovers that have been sitting on the stove all night. So,
dude, I tried, man.
I know, I'm just hoping all this hard work pays off. Guys, I titled today's episode, "Did I just agree with the communist protesters?"
Oh my gosh.
Because as you may have heard later last week, I have a side gig as an actual on the ground journalist going and covering political events. And Saturday night was an event put on by the Party of Socialism and Liberation, which openly calls for the complete abolishment of the police, for the complete abolishment of private property, for the complete abolishment of freedom of speech, and many other just great things. And
I, for one, will welcome our new communist overlords.
Kevin volunteered to come with me because, you know, like a lot of these events, sometimes I don't know what I'm walking into. And Cole used to be the first one to jump up and say, "Oh, me, pick me," and go rummage around in the junk and filth and garbage. But Cole decided to turn down that opportunity as he is in Colombia, and it would have been unfeasible for him to get there by 2:00. So
he says
we ended up showing up a little bit late. because my mom had an emergency. That emergency being I brought my 2-year-old horseback riding, and my mom works at some horse stables. And while we were out there, I guess at some point she believed she had left her purse on the bumper of my truck and that I had driven off. And so I had gotten home. I'd gotten in contact with Kevin, who was supposed to go out with me. And we start preparing, charging up the cameras. And I get a call from my mother, who is sobbing and screaming and going on about how her fanny pack is missing. And it has all of her cash, and it has her only forms of ID, and it has her car keys and everything else crucial for her to live her life in it. And she's panicking and freaking out and crying. And so I got to then go traversing up and down the road looking for a fanny pack, hoping that I would be the first one to make it to it, passing her house on the way, by the way, and going all the way up Wrist Canyon to check out the trail to the stables and back. And after going back and forth a couple times, I'm getting frustrated, I'm getting discouraged, so I decided to swoop through my mom's house and just look. Even though she told me she gave it a good search 3 or 4 times before giving up, and I found it within about 30 seconds and was like, Mom,
No,
wow, this is what happens when you legalize. This is what happens when you legalize marijuana. Okay?
Wow, yeah, it's horrible on you. Okay, don't ever smoke the marijuana.
Look at the unintended consequences it has caused for my life, sir.
No one who has ever smoked a marijuana has ever survived past the age of 110.
It's true. I mean, you just turn into dopehead zombies.
I know.
It is really sad to see this going on in our country, guys. So Kevin and I show up to this radical communist Antifa event.
They're very open about how radical it is.
As it was totally winding down. Gosh, do you still have the pamphlet?
Yes, I do. I have it somewhere it's downstairs. I can go grab it after the commercial break.
Go get the pamphlet.
We can go through it.
Because here's the thing. We're walking around with these Antifa communist protesters.
And
which
they're
I gotta
sad
say,
bunch.
sounds like an oxymoron, right?
You would think.
Communism? You would think they would figure this out. But they were actually making a few legitimate points that, as me and my co-patriot, who is a radical extremist libertarian, radical, dangerous, reckless and dangerous libertarianism, we were agreeing. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show.
Own goal. Reason number 1.
Culturally, the golden rule is treating others as you want to be treated. But financially, the golden rule is those that have the gold make the rules. When you retire, make sure you can write your rules. Call the Patriot Trading Group at 800-951-0592 or visit our website at allamericangold.com.
This is Sam Shook, Navy vet and Medicare specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me at 970-413-4939. Again, thanks KHNC listeners.
Have you always wanted to be on the radio? Do you have strong opinions or ideas that you think should be heard? Why not host your own radio show right here on the Roar of the Rockies? You'll be on the same station as Brian Kilmeade, Michael Savage, and Alex Jones. You can brand yourself as an expert in your industry and grow your business. Imagine telling your potential clients you have your own radio show. That gives you instant credibility. For more information, call us at 970-587-5003.
What's up, KHNC Patriots? Bucky Dillon here. If you're looking for a simple and free way to support the station, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/1360KHNC. It really does help us reach a broader and a younger audience, help us take our country back. Give it a like, give it a follow, give it a share, invite your friends. You can watch the live streams, you can read the blog, you can share the memes, and you can join the conversation. You can join the fight. Facebook.com/1360KHNC. The Bucky Dillon Show is a Liberty Revolt Media production. www.libertyrevoltmedia.com.
So, by the time that we got to this event, it was something like 4:30. There was supposed to be a march at 10, and then a series of speeches at 2. And they were live streaming their speeches as we were on the way to the event on the road. Very libertarian of us to get there with no regard whatsoever to the time frame of this event. But we
Who are you to tell me what time I need to be somewhere?
Yeah, that sounds like state-sponsored tyranny, if you ask me.
Exactly.
So we get there as things are winding down. There was, what would you say, 3 or 4 Antifa members who had their knife on their jacket and their the metal knuckle reinforcements and their umbrellas and their helmets, and one guy with an armored vest. And otherwise, you had a bunch of very sad, purple-haired, sitting down, falling asleep people who are like holding signs. And they're just kind of like, yeah, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, no, outside of like 1 or 2 people that absolutely look like they could, get stuff done at a riot, if you know what I mean. The rest were exactly who you would think it would be. There was a lot of white college-educated liberals there, it seemed.
Mm-hmm.
You did have your standard contingent of Black Lives Matter and everything like that. But
I'm pretty sure I saw that goth group from South Park standing somewhere smoking cigarettes.
They were dancing underneath the freeway pass.
It was pretty legitimate. It was legitimately the South Park goth kids crew.
They traveled all the way down here from South Park. They traveled all the way there from South Park, man.
It's true.
But yeah, no, there was like the only thing that I found threatening was simply the fact that there was only 2 of us. There was not a single individual there where outside of like 1 or 2 where I was like, yeah, this person seems like they could overthrow the 1% and take power. Yeah. It was
they were just as disappointed with a lack of action as we were.
They gave me this wonderful pamphlet, which was they had a table set out, free. Right? They had a table set out, a communism table, right? And so we walked up. Now, this is going to be really funny because I am the president of the Turning Point chapter at CSU. So I do a lot of tabling. And at our table, everything on it outside of the iPad and the speaker is free. So we have stickers, we have posters, we have everything, right? Now, at this communism table, where they hate the idea of capitalism and they detest the ability to apparently produce and make your own stuff, the only free thing that they were handing out was this pamphlet. All the pins, stickers, and everything else was quite expensive. And I just thought that the idea that the communist group would have all the stuff for sale and the capitalist group would have all the stuff for free really actually speaks to the mindset of the 2 sides. Because, us capitalists over here, we understand that, a part of capitalism is, getting people in the door. There's their side of volunteerism. There's a side of giving back. And so that's what we try to do at the table. We try to give the kids something that they can, something tangible that they can hold that helps support their ideas and stuff like that. And, through the graciousness of donors, we're able to provide it for free. These capitalist donors who, decide to spend their money the way they want. Whereas these communists were like, hey, we're going to make a quick buck. We hate this capitalist system unless we can make money from it, right? Right, Dylan?
Oh, they were selling T-shirts as well.
Oh, yeah. They had a T-shirt stand selling anti-capitalism T-shirts, and it was
for like $40 a piece or something.
It was freaking hilarious.
And capitalism with a $40 sticker on it.
It was absolutely unreal. I'm just like, you guys.
Why don't you read the pamphlet so people can get an idea of what this legitimate group operating with impunity? And I'm pretty sure, I'm not saying I know anything. I'm saying I'm pretty sure they are receiving funding from international interests.
Yes, I think I know the ones. Okay, so this pamphlet is titled Defund, Disarm, and Defeat the Police, Slave Catchers, Strike Breakers, and Class Traitors. The only way to improve the police is to undermine their ability to do their job. Capitalism depends on racism and police violence. Police are indispensable to capitalism. A small exploiting class cannot maintain their domination without armed guards to control, repress, and terrorize the large exploited masses. Modern policing was created to enforce the logic of slavery, colonialism, and industrial capitalism. Racism is written into the very DNA of the police. Their uninterrupted stream of violence against Black, brown, and indigenous people demonstrates this. Now for one of the two paragraphs I agree with. Cops are experts in repressing defiant crowds united in collective action. Most police resources are devoted to patrolling working-class neighborhoods as a reminder of the standing threat of state violence. This is actually true. The police focus on street crime, which amounts to little more than criminalizing the poor and racialized. Meanwhile, the grotesque inequality that drives street crime is not considered criminal, and the rich are allowed to do as they please. Though they often come from working-class backgrounds, cops are not part of the working class. They are professional class traders who have been grafted onto the ruling class to act as its enforcers. Another true paragraph coming up here. The police are the first enemy that must be confronted by movements of the working class and oppressed. They are the ruling class's first line of defense against our political advancement. We should recognize the police as a force that can never be won to our side, though we welcome division in their ranks at certain moments in struggle. The most effective stance we can take towards the police is one of unwavering antagonism. And then it goes on the back to call them terrorists right here. It says the police cannot be reformed. Racist terror is their job. The problem of the police cannot be reduced to a few bad apples, nor the individual racism, misogyny, and penchant for violence that is important in their ranks. Side note, of course, it's always misogyny. Apparently, law enforcement is misogynistic. All cops are bad because they play all the same immutable role in capitalist society. To enforce class rule and the white supremacist social order. The analysis informs what changes the fight for and how we fight to win. All right, but yeah, so it's pretty crazy. There was a couple things I didn't end up reading on it just because it's dumb. And the thing is it's really funny because there are, like I said, there are two paragraphs that actually get to the point of what the police represent. Now, this does not necessarily mean cops are bad. What it means is the role they play is very significant and has a lot of power behind it. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, because it is true that cops are experts in repressing defiant crowds united in collective action, and most police resources are devoted to patrolling not just working class, but all neighborhoods. As a reminder of the standing threat of state violence, that is what the cops exist to do. They are the reminder that if you break the law and order that we have established, we are going to be the first line against you to stop whatever you're doing, and we are going to remind you who has the monopoly of violence in this area. That is what the cops are for. That is what the state does and what the state needs. However, missed in what that reality is, and again, that's nothing more than an objective stance or an objective statement of what the police's role in our society is. It's surrounded by absolute garbage that has no standing in any kind of reality. While it is true that there was a slave catching aspect to original police jobs, that was just another purview of the law and order. And the problem was that slavery was legal, not that there were police enforcing the law, right? If you have a problem with the laws that the police are enforcing, your problem is not with the police themselves. It's with the fact that the laws are in place. Even in my perfect anarchic, voluntary, privatized police idea, the police would still exist. It just would be performed by a different actor. It would be performed by a private company rather than a state-controlled company, effectively making that entire point moot because it would still exist no matter what. But again, that just reinforces how important their role is and how important it is that we define the boundaries in which they can operate. It is important that we are very specific in the laws that we are asking them to enforce, because we are asking them to enforce such laws as the ones that are called quote unquote victimless crimes, something that probably, in my opinion, shouldn't exist. If there is no victim, there is no crime. If I'm the only victim of my own actions, that's not a crime. That's just bad actions, right?
So this actually led you to introduce me to a man named Murray Rothbard.
Oh my gosh!
So I started listening to a little bit of Murray Rothbard, and he's got an interesting video called "Anatomy of the State." So
I recommend all you guys listen to it. It's an hour long.
Kevin.
Yes.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
What is the state? And to answer this first, why don't you talk about what is not the state? And I think this is where we have a strong divergence between radical libertarianism and anarcho-communism, as our Antifa friends consider themselves.
Well, essentially, the state, it is not some kind of force for good. It is not, as Murray Rothbard says, it is not truly we the people. As Murray Rothbard says, we try to come up with the idea that the government is us. We are the government. But as he points out, he goes, if you're going to make the claim that we are the government, then the government the actions of an individual, therefore, are also the actions of the government, because we are the government. And therefore, if something like the example he uses is Nazi Germany, that would mean that the Nazi government did not, in fact, murder 6 million Jews, but in fact, 6 million Jews committed suicide at the hands of we the government, of we the people. The idea that the government is a force of the people is just absurd.
Kevin.
Yes.
The government was democratically put in place. Therefore, it must be an extension of the public will.
It is extension of only a portion of the public's will at any given time. There is always, as he says, if there is 70% in favor of an order and 30% against, that still means that there is 30% of people who are non-consensually going to have someone else's will forced upon them. At the end of the day, the government is, it is a force. It is a mechanism by which values and rules are established, maintained, and held to order, and it is at all times the exertion of the monopoly of power. The government is the monopoly on power. Whatever government you follow, whatever orders and laws you follow, that is who has the monopoly on power, and the monopoly on violence, to say it even better. And so, at the end of the day, no matter what you're trying to do, this force will always have a coercive nature behind it. You look at taxes. It is the government is the only organization out there that gets its money not through voluntary
mixing its
exchange.
labor with resources so that it can improve function or quality of life.
Yeah, it's the only one that doesn't do it through voluntary means, by wherein we voluntarily hand over our money. It's the only one that uses coercive means. It gets its money not from providing something, but from demanding something. It gets its money. We don't pay it after.
So you're
it's
likening
paved
the government
roads.
to a parasitic rapist.
It is. The government is a parasite. It takes from you non-consensually. It draws off of your gains and only your gains.
Guys, you are listening to the Kevin LaRusso Show right here on 1360 KHNC. Hang around after the break. Hey, and if you are on the live stream, you can engage with us in the conversation. Thank you, Miss Miller. We sure do enjoy your company. Good morning, America.
Hi, everyone. This is Leah. Join me Monday through Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. for Leah Live, right here on 1360 KHNC. I'll look forward to it.
Did the insurance company divorce your mountain house? Then call Affordable Tree Service North at 970-568-6898. We have over 50 years combined experience in fire mitigation. Let us climb, cut, trim, haul your worries away. We know brokers who specialize in mountain property, and we don't hire no snowflakes. Oh, God. Hey. Again, call Affordable Tree Service at 970-568-6898. That's 568-6898.
Do you ever wake up and feel like there should be someone to run your errands? We want to get things done, but just don't have enough time. Many of us hire concierge services like dog walkers or food and grocery delivery. Why should your insurance needs be any different? At Badger Insurance Advisors, we act as your concierge for all things insurance, pairing quotes and prices, and recommending the best insurance for your needs. Call or text us today at 303-359-1799 or check us out at badgerinsuranceadvisors.com.
Hi, this is Mike Morris, owner of Warriors Revolution Tactical in Longmont. At Warriors Revolution, we have the largest selection of tactical gear and ammo in northern Colorado. But what many people may not know is that we now sell firearms. And even despite the recent run on firearms and ammunition, we have plenty of product in the store, including ARs, AKs, Glocks, SIGs, HK, and more. And don't forget all the bulk ammunition at the best prices in town. Need to do a private firearms transfer? We can do that too. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and our team is made up of veterans and security experts, not a bunch of salesmen. Our team is trained and fought with much of the actual equipment we sell. And one thing you should know is that we support the foundations and principles this great country was founded upon. So if you need tactical gear, ammo, firearms, AR parts or upgrades, and even survival accessories, stop by and visit us on Ken Pratt Boulevard and Bowen Street in Longmont, or visit warriorsrevolution.com. That's Warriors.
Oh, beautiful. Does the American flag offend you? Call 1-800-LEAVE-AMERICA. If not, call 970-460-8873 and book a fly fishing trip on the North Platte River. Come experience peak dry fly season this summer in the North Platte Valley, or chase big browns this fall through November. 8 hours on a drift boat, experience guides, lunches and flies included. Visit trouttamers.com, and thank you for supporting KHNC.
This is Rick Rodriguez. Christ said, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Join me every Sunday, 9 to 11 a.m. for the Olive Tree and Lampstand Ministry Radio Church on the new 1360 KHNC.
Great minds think alike. Thank you for listening to the Bucky Dillon Show, hosted by the Liberty Revolt. Join me, Larry Elder, today at 5 on 1360 KHNC. Now back to Bucky Dillon.
Thank you, Larry. I am a true Eldorado. Guys, before we get too much further, I would just like to say that I went to the 1360khnc.com and I hit the podcast page and I found the Don't Be a Victim show. And I'm not saying I discovered it. I already knew about it, obviously. But I found the Don't Be a Victim show and I listened to like 5 hours of Don't Be a Victim yesterday, and then I went home and I started like strategizing how to like fortify my apartment into the Alamo. So hey guys, if you are looking for something really entertaining and interesting and you like that kind of stuff, check out the KHNC podcast page, because we actually do have a lot of interesting stuff on there. And I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of Lee Turner Jr. and Buddy Myers. So anyways, I just had to throw that out there, that I went to the blog page and I enjoyed it. I'm sitting here with the one of the 9 creepy villains from Lord of the Rings who's tracking down the hobbits. Yeah. So we kind of discussed what is inherent about the state and how it is not, it can't possibly be an honest representation of the people, because by definition, the state has to exist as a predatory apparatus that exists through the exertion of a monopoly of force, which leeches off of society, off of the productive gains of society by the threat of jail cell or bayonet. So this brings us to this brings us to an interesting question. When it comes down to, liberals will say that, how do you justify a public police force, or a public military, or a public roadway system? And they will say, well, the people come together and use the government as an extension of their will to provide for the common good. And that puts you at an impasse where you have to decide, okay, if you are not a liberal, but you agree with that, then how can you disagree with the sentiment that we shouldn't treat healthcare the same, that we shouldn't treat the energy industry the same, that we shouldn't treat the steel industry the same? And it leaves you at a position to where you either have to agree that that's a legitimate use of government, implementing institutions for the public interest, or you have to end up where my friend is, as an anarchist libertarian, because you are either, if you agree that there should be a public provided police force, you are intermixing crap in the brownie mix.
Yes. So my response to this is, now, I understand just how utopic the idea of anarchism is. I point out that anarcho-capitalism, which is the exact opposite side of the spectrum from communism, is just as utopic. It requires as much of a radical shift in human thinking. And I understand that in my life, my wife will most likely not be an anarcho-capitalist, my kids will not be anarcho-capitalists, and my neighbors are never going to be anarcho-capitalists. So what can we do to exist in this society with them?
So you're saying your personal role in society is to simply dig your heels in, no matter what the left says?
My personal heels is to make sure that anyone who's suggesting we give more power to this this inherently tyrannical force, my job is to try to protect as much of our freedom and liberty in whatever policy they're trying to advance. So the way I look at it, the way I approach it, and I was just talking to Kobe about this yesterday, I think, is that at the end of the day, what I want is almost unachievable, virtually impossible. So how can I inform as many people as possible on the inherent evils of government, so that when we are looking at new policy and new laws to pass, we're doing so with the thought front and center in our mind, okay, so how can we achieve what we need to achieve through this policy without trampling all over liberties and freedoms? And if you can't, I ask you then, is that policy even necessary? Is that policy actually for the greater good? Because it would seem to me that what is for the greater good are things that maximize our individuality and our liberty, and allow us as individuals to achieve our dreams and our goals, as, it's not going to be an automatic thing, but gives us the most opportunity to. And so what can we do with this government to minimize its inherent capability for oppression, if you will? And so, while I fully understand I'm never going to live in an anarchic society, I should be living in a society where I'm allowed to say whatever's on my mind. I should be living in a society where I'm allowed to associate with whoever I want, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, all this other stuff, the freedom of association. I should be living in a society where I am allowed to carry on me the tools to defend myself no matter what situation pops up. And so how can we get these liberties back against a government that desperately wants us to not have these rights, against a radical left that completely believes the opposite.
Those we saw Saturday night looked pretty desperate to me.
They did look desperate for their parents' love that they probably never got.
You remember walking by that one guy as we were going down the ramp to go ask the police officers what they thought? There was the one guy who was sitting there just looking as depressed and desperate as could possibly
They all
be.
look just so sad and depressed. There was like no smiling faces at all involved. It was so sad.
You know what I noticed about Murray Rothbard?
By the way, I love it.
He gave a speech, and the entire time he's giggling. The first thing I noticed was his doofy voice.
Oh yeah,
and
he's hilarious.
That's why the state is kind of a predatory.
He's just some like nerdy old dude who's getting up there and telling you that. Oh, by the way,
I have noticed that that's when libertarians and conservatives are the most effective, is when they're laughing. Because as soon as an anarchist libertarian capitalist, as soon as their eyebrows get parallel, something scary is about to happen. Right? Nobody likes it.
Dude, it happens to me all the time on campus. I'll be having a conversation and someone will say something so dumb, such as, the Chinese Communist Party is actually not a force of evil. They're actually doing a lot of good, and they've raised a lot of people out of poverty. And I just respond with, you actually believe anything coming out of their mouth.
Right. By the way,
my God.
China's rich because of Western investment.
Yes.
And honestly, China's rich because of laissez-faire capitalism in their economy.
The fact that we as Americans cannot purchase any property in China, but they as the Chinese can purchase as much property as they want in America.
Good for them.
Oh.
Come on, Kevin, join the winning team. You're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show right here on 1360. This is the Compliance Report.
It is not because men have made laws that life, liberty, and property exist. On the contrary, it is because life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that men made laws in the first place. What then is law? It is the collective organization of the individual right to lawful defense and punishing injustice. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
Hi, folks. I'm James Morgan, a realtor with Grisham & Associates, LLC. I know it must seem like there's a million realtors out there making all kinds of promises. Want to hear my big marketing promise? I promise honest and fair dealings with all those I do business with. That may sound old-fashioned, and it is not very catchy, but it is true. I am your Colorado real estate specialist. Farm, land, mountain cabins, or urban dwellings. When you work with my team, we'll get the right property for you and be upfront and honest with you every step of the way. Over the years, my clients have told me just that fact alone separates us from others in the industry. If you are considering buying or selling real estate, call me, James Morgan, at 720-203-0731 or visit my website at coloradoproperties.online. No catchy slogan, just a client-first, honest real estate experience. Hit it, girls.
Keep listening to the American Freedom Network.
Back in the USSR.
Socialism, like the ancient ideas from which it springs, confuses the distinction between government and society. As a result, every time we object to a thing being done by government, the socialists conclude we object to it being done at all. We disapprove of state education, and the socialists say we are opposed to any education. Socialism. Frederick Bastiat, The Law.
Back in the USSR.
欢迎收听 KHNC 广播电台 Bucky Dillon 早安秀，大家的早安广播，谢谢。
Let them move on some blood. Fires are
Private police are law enforcement bodies that are owned and or controlled by non-governmental entities. Additionally, the term can refer to an off-duty police officer while working for a private entity, providing security or otherwise law enforcement related services. Policing and private policing are somewhat elusive concepts. Private sector police, quote, any individual or group involved with law enforcement or security, but lacking official police authority, as in lacking state-sponsored authority.
Yep.
However, in many jurisdictions, particularly in the United States, private police agencies or officers generally do have some form of statutory authority. At the core of the policing concept, though, is the combating of crime. Patrick Twinsy writes, enforcement of law is a phenomenon that admits of infinite degrees and permutations. Take the case of a jewelry store. The theft of its wares is a crime under the law, but the jewelry store does not rely exclusively or even primarily on the majesty of the state's enforcement of that law for its own security. The jewelry store engages the services of manifold private protection outfits. It takes out an insurance policy on its gems, which are kept under a locked glass display case, which can only be opened by an employee who is under the ever vigilant eye of video monitoring equipment and who watches the customers with the aid of convex mirrors and keeps the store's cash in a locked vault, which is in the back room, which is in turn locked at closing time, and the store's alarm activated as the employees leave and the armed night watchmen arrive. All of these are provided by private companies in the business of providing, quote, security, and all of which should give pause to those who are considering the enforcement of law uniquely the franchise of the government. So my friend here who loves the idea of reckless endangerment of libertarian ideas spread forth throughout the world. Are you rallying for complete and total privatization of the police?
Nope. What I'm rallying for is we address the problem we have with the police. The problem we have with the police is that there are too many laws and they don't know what they're enforcing. So if you don't know what you're enforcing and you are basically given some level of immunity for whatever your actions are, if you think what you are doing is in pursuit of enforcing some law, then your actions are justified. Now, the problem we have is that there are so many laws on the books, no matter what a cop does, there's almost always justification for whatever they're doing, and they can almost always get away with whatever kind of violations of rights they commit. And that is the problem that we have. And it wouldn't matter if it was private or public police, the problem would not go away if the same laws remained on the books. So what I'm advocating for is that we completely reassess what we have deemed criminal acts, and we start to trim down the size of the book, of our book of laws, and we start to actually address what we think should open the door to police violence. Because at the end of the day, what people have to understand is that every law has with it, every single law, no matter what that law is, every single law has behind it the threat of a gun. There is no law that does not have the barrel of a gun behind it. Otherwise, it's not a law.
Wait a minute. You're saying if you disobey the law, the state will exercise legitimate physical force against you?
Oh,
and therefore, by calling for gun restrictions, you're essentially advocating for state-sponsored gun violence against those who would defend themselves from the government?
Exactly. So the problem we have is that private or public, there are too many laws on the books. And so it won't matter if we switch from public to private if we keep the same laws. So what we need to do is start, decriminalizing non-criminal action, start limiting the reasons why a cop would get involved in your day, and start, actually taking back our freedoms and liberties. And that way, because if the only thing the cop is required to enforce is crimes of threat, rape, or crimes of, like violent threats, rape, theft and murder, those are very easy to identify and to stop. But if you have
Sounds
cops
like
that
the
are
10 Commandments.
yeah, the fact that a blinker can having a blinker out is enough for a cop to instigate an interaction with you, aka to threaten you with a gun, is ridiculous. The idea that your blinker being out is in some way, shape, or form justification for your death is absolutely mind-boggling for me. Because let's put it this way: if your blinker's out and you get pulled over and you get told to fix it and you don't fix it, you're going to get pulled over again and you're going to get a fine.
Well, I will, however, say that I have a 2-year-old that rides in the back of my car, and I get very upset when someone unexpectedly jumps lanes without signifying me with a blinker. So
Yeah,
are you saying you should be able to drive without any form of brake lights or blinker lights on your vehicle?
Well, chances are the person whose blinkers out and also going to make dangerous moves is going to be driving recklessly anyways. And if you're driving in a manner that's actually legitimately putting other people's lives at risk, then yeah, you're going to get in trouble. But the blinker is just an extension of that, right? Like, it's not the guy's blinker being out, it's the fact that the guy got in front of you in a situation that was completely dangerous. Because you do realize that there are ways to signal. If you don't have a blinker, you stick your arm out the window. You do this for right and you do this for left. Those are still things. And I have watched people do that on the road when their blinker is out. But the people whose blinker is out and weren't going to do that anyway, they're driving recklessly to begin with and are most likely doing things that would justify being pulled over because, these are public roads. There is we do, as public citizens, have a right to expect you to demonstrate competence before you put me in potential danger. If you do know what you're doing and you're driving next to me on the road, you are a threat to me. You are an actual threat to my physical safety.
This puts us at an interesting conundrum.
It does.
Should blinkers be legally mandatory?
No.
Kevin thinks no. Guys, you're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. Call it 970-587-5177.
They can't afford to invest in gold and silver. But at the Patriot Trading Group, we believe that everyone should have the opportunity to own hard assets. That's why we created our Preferred Metals program. You can get started for as little as $100 a month. Go to allamericangold.com and click on our Preferred Metals icon to learn how you can get started today. Or call us at 800-951-0592. The Patriot Trading Group, allamericangold.com.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing, and you always need to be sticking your fingers. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. You simply apply a discreet, easy-to-use sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger pricks. If you test your blood sugar at least 4 times per day and inject insulin at least 3 times per day, or use an insulin pump and have private insurance or Medicare, you might be eligible for a CGM with little or no cost to you. Call U.S. Medical Supply today for a free benefits check. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill Medicare or your insurance directly. Call now and say goodbye to finger pricks.
800-426-0557. 800-426-0557. 800-426-0557. That's 800-426-0557.
This is Sam Shook, Navy Vet and Medicare Specialist. I just want to thank the KHNC listeners for their support and trust in me as their Medicare specialist. If you are currently on Plan F, we are in a window of opportunity that can save you a lot of money towards your monthly premium. Please contact me at 970-413-4939. If you are getting into Medicare soon or are already enrolled and have questions, please call me 413-4939. Again, thanks KHNC listeners.
All of the music for the Bucky Dillon Morning Show was provided by my band, Beer for Bears. Find us on social media by looking for Beer for Bears.
Yes. I do not believe blinkers should be a legal requirement.
If someone is,
every car should
if
have
somebody is, if somebody is trying to call into the show and instead calling the radio station's landline, you may be calling the wrong number. The number is 970-587-5171 if you'd like to hop on the radio. Thank you. Anyways, so this is an interesting concept. The legalization or illegalization of potential threat. Now, it seems like this argument we're having over blinkers, which I'd say is less than an argument because I'm really struggling to find a position here because I feel like if I defend the legal enforcement of the use of a blinker, I might as well start defending government mandating masks because it's essentially the same thing. It's illegalizing potential threat, preemptively punishing a crime.
You want to know the really difficult
one?
An
interesting conundrum. Here's
Dylan, you want to know the really difficult one?
I have one for you.
Should drunk driving be illegal?
Guy. Oh man,
the whole point of a DUI is that you could hurt someone.
Right? Are you driving recklessly or not? All right, I got a question for you, Mr. Extremist Libertarian. Private ownership of nuclear weapons.
Nope, because it is impossible to use a nuclear weapon without damaging other people. It is absolutely impossible to use a nuclear weapon without injecting nuclear fallout into the air, which will cause damage to other people. It is impossible to use a nuclear weapon without infringing on the rights of others.
Wait, you're saying you're imposing a cost on others? What about in the case of a contagious virus that you may or may not be wittingly or unwittingly spreading?
People want to survive. People will lock down voluntarily if it's dangerous enough.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, I don't want to die. Gosh, if the Black Plague is going around, I'm going to stay in my house until that thing's freaking over it.
Should someone who routinely smokes and drinks and drives to the point that they can do so without breaking any of our rules of the road? Now you're saying we should legalize drunk driving, and
not necessarily.
You were saying we should legalize. You're saying we should only punish reckless driving.
Yeah.
Therefore,
reckless driving.
You could be as drunk as you want as long as you're not driving recklessly.
If you cannot tell if you cannot actually tell that I am drunk by the way I'm driving,
it doesn't matter what your blood alcohol level content.
You should not be able to pull me over. That's because that's what it comes down to. Reckless driving is the crime. Recklessly driving is what is going to hurt someone. That it's driving drunk is not does not
legalize drunk driving.
I'm not saying that.
Abolish blinker laws.
You're listening
to the Bucky Dillon Show.
Oh my God! What a straw man here. No, what I'm saying is that we need to. What you need to consider is the reality that by requiring by law blinkers be used, you are saying, I think it is worth it for a cop to potentially put a gun to your head to make you use a blinker. Now, if the question is still the same for drunk driving, I think it is within a cop's right to put a gun to your head to stop you from driving drunk. And you know what? There are absolutely people that are going to say, yeah, I think that the threat is so great to other people with you drunk driving that it is worth it to put a gun to your head. And you know what? I can definitely agree with that reasoning. But the not using a blinker one, that is, yeah.
I very much appreciate people using blinkers. God,
I do too.
Man,
I love it when people use blinkers.
That's tough.
I love it when they do.
Guys, you're listening to the Bucky Dillon Show. Second hour coming up. The live stream will be live streamed, but it will be on a separate live stream. So tune in again to the Bucky Dillon Show.
Did the fire marshal take one look down your driveway and say, my guys aren't going down there? Or are there parts of it that just need a little more sun? Then call Affordable Tree at 970-568-6898. We can climb, cut, or trim your problems away, specializing in defensive space, upper and lower fire mitigation, forest health, plus we can save freshly hit beetle trees. So call us at 568-6898. That's 568-6898.
Do you ever wake up and feel like there should be someone to run your errands? We want to get things done, but just don't have enough time. Many of us hire concierge services like dog walkers or food and grocery delivery. Why should your insurance needs be any different? At Badger Insurance Advisors, we act as your concierge for all things insurance, pairing quotes and prices, and recommending the best insurance for your needs. Call or text us today at 303-359-1799 or check us out at